Our winter holiday in 2004 was a trip to Singapore and Bali. Both were fabulous, but for different reasons. Here are some of the sights and sounds we found in Asia. We left from the Vancouver airport. Here's Diane with our good friends Dave and Gwen Campbell in front of the sculpture called The Spirit of the Haida, the Jade Canoe, done by the noted Haida artist Bill Reed. 28 hours later, we were at our hotel in Singapore. Singapore, which means the City of Lions, is a dynamic modern city-state of some 4.5 million people on a small island, somewhat larger than the area of the city of Winnipeg. Singapore is at the southern tip of the Malaysian peninsula, the crossroads of the old spice route. The lion is the symbol of Singapore. The Merlion Fountain, half lion, half fish, is located on land reclaimed from the sea near the old harbour at the mouth of the Singapore River. From the harbour we get a good view of the Municipal Theatre and the concert hall. In the foreground is a water taxi which shuttles crew members from the ships in the main harbour to the city centre. The theatre complex is an architectural standout. Another view from the harbour reveals its stunning design, which is supposed to resemble the shell of the durian fruit. Locals say the durian smells like hell but tastes like heaven. We stayed at the Apollo Hotel in Singapore. A statue of Apollo graces a small but lush courtyard in front of the hotel. On the other side of the statue is a waterfall and garden. This is the front drive and courtyard at our hotel. The lions guarding the entrance were decorated with a red bow to celebrate the Chinese New Year. The hotel reception area was stunning, done in marble, alabaster, and granite, with a large pot of white orchids in full bloom to greet the guests. This is the view from the appropriately named Waterfall Bar, which was one of our favorite spots at the hotel. The Apollo Hotel served afternoon tea, English style, but with a Chinese menu. Here's the tea buffet at the Waterfall Bar. Here are some folks enjoying afternoon tea. We went on a tour of the city. Here we are on the Esplanade, a walkway along the ocean and river looking towards the downtown business area, much of which was built on reclaimed land. The downtown area has a wonderful mix of the old and the new. The Fullerton Hotel is in the foreground, a neoclassical design which blends in with the modern office towers. Aside from the architecturally interesting buildings, many are well landscaped and have greenery to complement the buildings. The central common is called Padang, and many of Singapore's historically or politically significant buildings surround Padang. Here is St. Andrew's Church, the Singapore Parliament, the Supreme Court, the Singapore Cricket Club. One can clearly see the British influence in the buildings surrounding Padang. On the south side of Padang is a war memorial honoring those who had died during the Second World War. Just to the south is the Esplanade and another view of the spectacular theatre complex. The downtown area was also the starting point for our Singapore Harbour cruise and Bataan Island, a recreation area not far from Singapore. We cruised in a replica of a Royal Chinese junk, replete with golden dragons and lions for good luck. Our cruise went by the Merlion Fountain and gave us some great views of the city's skyline. We sailed by Singapore's port, which is the largest in the world, servicing some 800 ships a day, 365 days a year. Singapore has three major ethnic groups, the Malay, Indian, and Chinese, each in their own district. Our tour took us to two of those three areas. Here are some typical street scenes in Chinatown. Many were decorated for Chinese New Year. This is a traditional Chinese medicine shop with some of the cures hanging underneath the awning. We also visited a Hindu temple called Sri Mariamman that is still an active worship site. This is the entranceway to the temple with elaborate carvings of the representations of various deities. An interesting note, this temple was in the midst of Chinatown. The roofline of this temple had elaborate and detailed carvings of various Hindu deities. This is the interior courtyard with a large carving of a peacock. Two Hindu priests are giving offerings at one of the altars inside the temple. We visited the Indian district of Singapore. Here the shops cater to Indian tastes. This shop specialized in small sandalwood carvings. At this shop, a lady is busy preparing garlands of gardenias and marigolds to be used as offerings. Another shop sells fruits and vegetables for food, and garlands to be used as offerings. Many of the shops made and sold altars for use in the home. Another shop had the Hindu god Ganesha, the god of wisdom and knowledge, seated amid a colorful display. The orchid is Singapore's national flower. Our city tour took us to the National Orchid Garden for a wonderful stroll amongst acres of orchids in a lush tropical setting. This is the entrance to the orchid garden. The next few slides show the splendor of the orchid garden. As you can see, orchids grow well in Singapore, which is situated in a tropical rainforest. Many of the streets in Singapore were decorated for Chinese New Year. This year was the year of the monkey, and you should be able to make out the monkeys on top of the banners spanning the street. We went to the Raffles Hotel, a historic hotel in downtown Singapore. When we got out of the taxi, we were greeted by a doorman who might have been in a Rudyard Kipling tale. This is one of the many courtyards at the Raffles. We went to the long bar at the Raffles Hotel where the Singapore sling was invented. There are 4 happy people enjoying their Singapore slings at the long bar. The Suntech Center is a complex of 5 high-rise towers surrounding the Fountain of Wealth, which is reputed to be the world's largest fountain. The 5 towers were all designed using feng shui principles for good fortune and house over 3,000 shops and restaurants. There is a smaller fountain within the larger fountain. If you walk around the inner fountain 3 times, touching the water with your right arm, good fortune will be yours in the coming year. Here is one good fortune seeker. Here is another. Here are some of our last views of the orchid garden at the airport as we make our way to the departure lounge for Bali. Bali was an exciting cultural experience. A lush tropical climate, friendly people, all infused with a rich Hindu tradition that pervades daily life. This is the roundabout in Nusa Dua, near the Bali Hilton where we stayed. Nusa Dua is referred to as the Golden Enclave, a small village which is home to some of the finest hotels in the world. Nusa Dua is the southmost peninsula in Bali, and Bali is part of Indonesia and located just south of the equator. A fountain and a reflecting pool greeted guests at the front of our hotel. Most of the sculptures and statues throughout our hotel complex and throughout Bali, as well as the Balinese dances, were about Rama and Sita, the legendary heirs to the Balinese throne, and their ordeals in overcoming evil. Here are some of the pictures of the scenes at the hotel's main entrance. This fountain just outside the hotel's reception area greeted visitors arriving by car. The hotel's reception area, many of its lounges and restaurants, although sheltered by a roof, were open to the outdoors. Diane and Gwen are enjoying a drink in the Vista Lounge, which is part of the main reception area. Our hotel complex was built like an oval, with a large lagoon and swimming pool in the middle and rooms and facilities on the perimeter. This is a view of the hotel reception area from the lagoon. The lagoon was home to many large koi, large dragon-like lizards called alu, and many kinds of birds. This is the main breakfast area overlooking the lagoon. I took this picture from the main breakfast area overlooking the lagoon during a rainstorm. Many birds took shelter in trees growing in the lagoon area. Part of the hotel complex is in the background. This is the waterfall in the lagoon. This shot was taken from our favorite lunch spot, a small patio restaurant by the swimming pool. A statue of Retta, one of Rama's faithful servants, occupied a prominent spot. Diane is near the patio restaurant overlooking the swimming pool. On this day, the statue of Retta in the background is completely covered in a white cloth for some religious reason. This is the overview of the swimming pool looking towards the hotel reception area. The pool was large enough to have a bridge over it. Here we are on one of the pathways in the gardens surrounding the lagoon and the pool. Here's a view of a small pond off the lagoon and gardens from the pathway. This fountain is in an interior courtyard near the entrance to the shopping arcade at the hotel. Diane is seated in the interior courtyard near our hotel room. Diane is on our hotel room balcony, which overlooked the neighboring golf course and the ocean not far away. This is the view from our balcony. Diane is relaxing in our hotel room before joining the Campbells for happy hour and dinner. Jatayu, The Bird King, an ally of Rama, greeted us when we went for breakfast at the Laguna restaurant at the far end of the hotel complex near the beach. This is the patio just outside the Laguna restaurant, our favorite spot for breakfast. It has lush gardens and a tranquil atmosphere. This is one of the Balinese servers at the Laguna restaurant, just waiting for us to arrive. Here we are having breakfast at the Laguna restaurant. These are frangipani, which grew abundantly nearby. Here's Diane lounging at the hotel beachfront. The beach had great sand, but a powerful surf with undertows made the ocean a less than ideal spot for swimming. These are some boats on the beach near our hotel. Our hotel had an outdoor theater for dinner shows featuring Balinese dance. This is the view of the theater from one of the garden walkways. This is the entrance to the theater. This is the view of the main stage of the theater and the seating. These young girls greeted us at the theater for Balinese dance night. Here we are at our seats just before dinner and an evening of Balinese dance. Frangipani flowers for the ladies. Dinner was served hawker style from carts and buffet tables around the dining area. During dinner we were entertained by a duo playing the gangsa, the Balinese bamboo xylophone. This entourage introduced the Balinese dance. We watched the Lagong dance, considered to be the most graceful of all Balinese dances, and one of the few that is not about Rama and Sita. A Balinese gamelan orchestra played for the dancers. It consisted of various percussion instruments, bamboo flutes, and some stringed instruments. Here are the dancers taking their bows to a small but very appreciative audience. These were the greeters at the Kechak dance, which was held inside the hotel. It was threatening rain that night and could not be performed in the outdoor theater. The Kechak dance is the most popular of Balinese dances and tells the story of Rama and Sita and how they overcame the evil king Ravana. The story of Rama and Sita, heirs to the Ayodhya throne, comes from the Ramayana, one of the great holy Hindu books. The costumes were visually stunning and matched the elaborate and graceful movements of the dancers. Masks play a large role in Balinese dance. Here is the mask of Rangda, the mythological monster in the Barong dance. These were the gamelan musicians at the Barong dance. In addition to the Balinese dance in our hotel, the people, the temples, the Balinese countryside, and the markets left a lasting impression. Here are some of our fond remembrances. These are worshippers at the Mother Temple in Besakai, with many of the women carrying offerings in baskets on their heads. This is the roundabout in Ubud, a small cultural and artistic center in central Bali. The statue is of Rama, surrounded by legendary Balinese symbols. There are 2 Balinese women carrying loads on their head. Musa was our Balinese guide when we toured Bali. Here Musa is pointing out an interesting rice field. This was the rice field in a valley with a shrine in the foreground. Musa took us to many interesting markets. Here Diane is negotiating with the local Rolex dealer in the rain. Diane is in the final stages of buying 2 Rolexes for $14. We went to a butterfly park. Here the owner is displaying a large specimen moth. Musa took us to a small commercial garden specializing in coffee and vanilla. This is one of the workers roasting coffee, Balinese style, in a wok over an open fire. This young lady works in the garden shop. She's getting us a couple of cups so we can sample the coffee. She's standing in front of the statue of the Hindu god Ganesha, complete with garland, dress, and offerings for that day. Our first trip to a Balinese temple was in the northern, more mountainous part of Bali, where it was much cooler because of the altitude. We're in the town of Bedagul, overlooking Lake Danu-Bratan, where the temple was located. The flowers in the foreground are poinsettias. Before we visited the temple, we had lunch at a local restaurant. These young men welcomed us to the restaurant in the typical Balinese way. This is the view of the lake temple, looking back towards the town. A Muslim mosque is on the hill in the background. This is a close-up of the mosque with the tower where the Islam faithful are called to prayers. Instead of an imam doing the calling, everything was automated using a recording over a public address system. The temple on the shore of Lake Danu-Bratan was serenely awe-inspiring. The lake, the mist, the mountains, the temple combined for a mystical Balinese experience. Not far from the lake temple was the town's local market. I bought my Balinese pumpets and the mask at this market. This market catered primarily to local needs. There were many interesting and colorful fruits and vegetables displayed in equally colorful baskets. High in the mountains, not far from the lake temple, were the towns of Batur and Kidamani, noted for their lake and volcano. The volcano erupted in 1917 and wiped out most of both towns, killing thousands of people. The lava flow stopped at the edge of a temple, and this was considered to be a good omen, so the towns were rebuilt. Almost 90 years later, the volcanic ash still blackens the fields surrounding the volcano. This is the Majestic Hotel in Batur, where we had lunch. Across the street from the hotel was another shop and restaurant that catered to the locals. It was located on the edge of the lava fields. After lunch, we went for a walk. Here Gwen is swarmed by street vendors, eager to make a sale. They were most persistent, but she resisted. On another day, we visit Tanah Lot, a temple on a rocky outcropping in the Indian Ocean in the southwestern part of Bali. For the Balinese, Tanah Lot is one of the most important and venerated sea temples. At Tanah Lot, the surf was exceptionally powerful and had eroded a large opening in the rocky outcroppings near the temple. Here's Diane looking over the Indian Ocean with the temple in the background. We stopped at a vendor who had her wares spread out on the grass near the temple, and who could resist? Gwen and Diane bought most interesting teapots. Tanah Lot has a magnificent community hall associated with the temple. We visited the monkey forest and temple at Bukit Sari, about 20 kilometers north of Denpasar, the capital of Bali. Here are Diane and Gwen with our guide, a local shopkeeper. At this area, shopkeepers offered their services as guides, in turn on the hope that you would shop at their store. We tipped instead. We took some bananas to feed the monkeys. However, if you don't feed the monkeys fast enough, they attack. Here's Diane being attacked by a banana zealot. This is one of the monkeys with the remains of a bunch of bananas in its hands. Here are a pair of monkeys grooming each other at the edge of the forest, which was a large grove of nutmeg trees. This monkey is eating the offerings left by worshippers at this temple. On our way to the Bat Cave and Temple at Goa Lawa on the east coast, we stopped at a fishing village. Here are typical Balinese boats beached on black volcanic sand. Seawater is being evaporated on banana leaves for its salt. This is the entrance to the temple at Goa Lawa, known as the Bat Cave Temple for obvious reasons. As there was a cremation ceremony when we visited the temple, we had to dress for the occasion. Musa, our Balinese guides, had sarongs for us to wear at such events. These are some of the worshippers gathering for the ceremony. Part of the temple was right inside the Bat Cave. Note the bats hanging from the roof of the cave. If you look, you can see the temple furnishings inside the cave are heavily covered with bat guano. The most important temple in Bali is called the Mother Temple and is located in Besaki on the slopes of Bali's highest peak. This mountain is the most sacred one in Bali and is regarded to be the navel of the world. The temple complex rises in tiers along the slope of the mountain, reaching to the heavens. The temple complex actually houses 22 different temples, many dedicated to specific Hindu deities. The temples and religion pervade the lives of the Balinese and left a lasting impression on us. The countryside in Bali provided many magnificent vistas in a lush tropical setting. Rice is one of Bali's main agricultural products. Often it's grown in terraced fields because of the hilly terrain in Bali. Rice fields were a notable feature in the Balinese countryside. This farmer is preparing a rice field in the traditional way, with a bullock pulling the plow. The bullocks and cattle used in rice farming were often kept in little sheds in the rice fields like this one. Here workers are planting a rice field by hand. There was a lot of manual labor in Bali. This worker is tending the rice field. Not far away, his bike is parked near a small shrine to the rice goddess Dui Shri, where daily offerings are left. These young boys are walking along a canal used to irrigate the rice fields. The canals are also used for bathing and washing. These geese were walking along the edge of a rice paddy. Geese were a prized possession in rural Bali. This man is pushing a load of cattle feed on his bike. A rural vendor who sells food from his bike has stopped for lunch at the side of the road. Roosters are common in Bali and are kept for cockfights, which are very popular for gambling. As seen here, roosters are usually kept in wicker or wire cages. We got a first-hand view of a Balinese village home when Musa took us to a country distiller to buy a bottle of arak, a palm brandy. After a few looks at the glass, Diane sampled some of the arak. The bottle is in her hand. This is the lady of the house. Her rooster and laundry tub are just behind her. This is where the husband and wife slept, open on two sides with curtains for privacy. The house was surrounded by a wall with a central open space. A duck and a chicken are running loose. The children slept in the house on the left. The household shrine shown here is typical of many Balinese homes. This is the view of the house from just outside the wall looking towards their shrine. In Bali, batik is an art form. We went to a batik shop where batik was made and sold. This lady is working on a tablecloth. Another batik tablecloth in the process of being made. For a small tip, Diane had her skirt batiked with a flower and Bali 2004. Many country shops made and sold a particular item. Here an artist is completing a canvas of typical Balinese flora and fauna. This shop specialized in wood carvings. We bought our carving of Rama and Sita here. This shop in the town of Ubud sold baskets for the locals and some other items for the tourist trade. This shop sold a variety of items, but kites were the most prominent. This large kite was made to look like a moth, all hand-painted batik style. This was a series of shops near a temple. The shop in the foreground sold an interesting variety of kites. This shop specialized in masks. This lady is weaving on a small hand loom. This house had an interesting entrance. The front of the house was used as a shop to sell batik. This fellow sold roll-up calendars inscribed on bamboo. However, these calendars functioned more like horoscopes. He kept himself busy by playing a Balinese stringed instrument. Another typical country home with a nearby shop. Another rice field in a lush tropical setting. We leave Bali where we started, at the statue of the legendary Prince Rama in Nusa Dua. We hope you enjoyed the sights and sounds of our vacation to Singapore and Bali. We certainly look forward to returning.